big trust. Woo! Ah! But we're totally fucked. I hope you guys like my dramatic acting on that bit, partially because we're doing the camera by itself again, meaning the audio quality is going to be lesser, and because this is more than likely the last game the Ravens are going to have this year, I'm going to go out in style. Going to decked out with everything. The Marlowe jersey, this, I even got some Raven earrings we bought from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So we're going all out for this wildcard weekend, and will probably be the last Ravens game of the season, unless miracles happen. I do believe in miracles, but this might be too tall of a task for even goddamn on this one. Hello everybody and welcome to Super Wildcard Weekend of the 2022-2023 NFL season of my prediction picks. I'm your host, Catherine, known as the Blind Canadian Cat. I say meow, I roll intros, I panic like a moron, and I talk football. Because that's what I'm good at, and that's what I know. And if you pretend I didn't do over-under predictions, you would think I'm relatively good at it. Based on these last week results, going 11-5 straight up, and 9-6-1 against the spread, which I don't care what anyone says, for a week 18, where you really don't know what the hell is going to happen, you got to give credit. Now the totals fuck me in the ass, but you know what? It's okay. We're not going to worry about it. We're not going to worry about it. Because, all in all, totals were just a shit show from the get-go. So, it is what it is. So that concludes our regular season with a 169-102 record, which, you know what? We managed to stay at 100 or under. I always will say, quote-unquote, we want to get under 100, but hitting 100 on the mark, you know what? We'll take it. We will take it. This is also the second time we've hit 100 exactly in the loss column in my career of doing this. Granted, also, previous years we were only dealt with 262 games, or 256 games, rather than 272. Or in this case, this year, 271. So with the extra week of games, the fact that we still only hit 100, we'll take it. It's very tricky to get under 100 with now the extra 16 games, because we're still hitting, I think it was 63% overall, so you know what? That's kind of where you want to be. That's kind of where you want to shoot for. So we got it. We got it. Spreads were ended at 126, 138, and 7. 5 years in doing spreads, I only have 1 year above 500, so it's just kind of a shit show. But you know what? Second of the last 3 years where I hit 126. So it's, you can't ask for much with spreads, but as long as we get in that like 45 to 50%, I don't know what the percentage I got was, but around there, I'll take it. And then totals, kind of a disappointing year overall, with a 123, 146, and 2. I mean, better than 2019 and 2020, but then again, you also had an extra 16 games for this week to make up what would be, an additional 7 wins. So, I don't know. We went at 138, 130, and 4 last year, so definitely dipped. Overall, not our best season in totality, but this was kind of a weird year altogether. And admittedly, I gave a lot more faith to some than I did others. And once again, we're always going to shout out one of my great friends here who does this shit, Justin, aka Bridgewater's Finest, who, for the Rule of 4, if anyone knows me, if you've been following me long enough, you know that I like to laugh at the Rule of 4, for the sole purpose of, yes, that rule is going to happen. I think Justin said it went 16-2 this year. If for those who don't know it, the Rule of 4 says at least 4 betting underdogs are going to win straight up in a week. So it's like, yes, it's going to happen. But you got to look me in the eye and tell me you believe certain teams are going to actually upset certain teams. It's shocking when we see it, but you can't convince me to bet that certain teams are going to win. You can't. So that I choose not to follow it. I'll throw it out every once in a while, just if I'm like uneven on one game, like, I'll bet the underdog, fuck it. But with that being said, Justin follows that rule. I don't. I finished 4 games better than him, straight up. So, regardless how you feel on that, my way works. Much love to you, Justin, and good luck in these playoffs. Sorry that Green Bay couldn't make it. Detroit on the rise, and I look forward to seeing them next year. 10 plus win team next year. I guarantee it. But with that, and that, because doing this camera, it's reverse. I hate my life. We are going to move on to the 6 wild card games, where I guarantee you both 7 seeds are probably going to get their ass kicked. But you know, the NFL likes more games and they like more money. So we're going to go down the line with how you're going to see them when the games present themselves over the weekend. Starting with San Francisco hosting Seattle. This is a division matchup. They'll be playing the 3rd time this season. San Fran's won both games. They've won them both by at least a possession. Well, they 8 the first time, like 13 or something like that. The second, 13 or so the first time in San Fran. They won by 8 on Thursday night while I was in Cleveland. So, which kind of turned into a sloppy blah game in the end. So realistically, what you're thinking is San Fran should win this game, and without a doubt, they are going to win this game. Seattle has fallen off massively to end the regular season, but thanks to other teams falling off, most notably the Commanders, but thanks to other teams falling off, it paved the path for Seattle to hold on for dear life. And with that, they're being rewarded with going to San Fran. So, good luck on that one. Division game for division's sake, you have to count that in. So whether the seeding matters or not, teams will play up or play down to division. It's gonna be a hard-nosed, hard-fought battle, yada yada. And now this is also the first time for Brock Purdy, where it's gonna be one of those like, hey, this is the real deal now. You can fuck around in the regular season and get away with whatever. But here in the playoffs, certain teams, they're going to be watching. And it's going to be these better teams. And by better, it's going to be subjective. Because it's Seattle and then maybe Minnesota if Minnesota wins their game. So, good luck with that one. You might not play a good team until the NFC Championship game. But either way, San Fran, you're playing a division game. It's one of those ones where well, okay, let's see. San Fran's going to win this game. There's no doubt that San Francisco is going to win this game. But the question is, they're laying 9.5 as of now, here on Wednesday night. They're laying 9.5, which, for the sole purpose of a division game, where everyone's healthy more or less, I don't have an injury report with me on the top of my head, so I don't know. I guess Seattle doesn't have Jordan Brooks. He tore his ACL in week 17, so that's a big deal. But either way, it's a division game. Division games, there's always something to them. There's always something to them. So just because of that, and because the spread is that high, I'm taking the points for Seattle. For the purpose of, like, can San Fran blow this team out? Sure. Is it going to get to a point where, like, they feel the need to blow them out? I don't know. To me, San Fran probably, I mean, they're going to get up for a division game for sure, but, like, they're like, these guys kind of got lucky to be here. It don't matter. It don't matter. So that's how I think San Fran's going to treat it. So whether that means they kind of just play, I don't want to say half-assed, but whether they play, like, up and down or just kind of meh, it might show. Seattle is playing with house money here. Like, if they lose this game, they don't care. So they might be a little more creative, a little more flashy, yada yada. Expect a couple deep bombs here to like a Tyler Lockett, a DK Metcalf. Because there's no big name defender. San Fran as a defense is great as a whole. But the secondary, let's be real, it's probably the weak link, if you could say. But they have great secondary players. I'm not trying to diminish them. When you think of San Fran's defense, you think of that front four with Nick Bosa, you think of that linebacking core with Fred Warner and them. I don't watch a lot of Niners games, so I can't say I know the whole roster top to bottom. But Nick Bosa and Fred Warner are the first two names I think of. So, if Seattle wants to get anything done here, they're going to have to take chances, which I think is their best bet. They're not going to dink and dunk their way on San Fran. San Fran's not going to let that happen. So, I'm taking Seattle with the points, for the sole purpose of Seattle is going to play a little more loose. San Fran might try to play loose. Brock Purdy might try to do a little too much now because, hey, it's the playoffs. Everyone's looking at me now. Look at me go, woo. Stuff like that. That's what I'm thinking of. So with that, give me San Fran straight up. Seattle against the spread. And for these videos, for the playoffs, I lose the totals here. I don't need to do them on Twitter. I'll do them here. Totals at 42.5. For a division game, third time in a row, playoff game, both, Brock Purdy, who's a rookie, who's never been, like I said, a rookie, never played in the playoffs, and you got Christian McCaffrey, who's got, what, one playoff season under his belt? I'm not saying he can't perform, I'm just saying, this is, for the most part, these two teams aren't very playoff wealthy. Geno Smith, I don't think he ever went to the playoffs with the Jets. Tyler and DK have had their fair share with Russ, but Russ was kind of cooked by the time he gets to the playoffs every year. So I'm going to take the under on this, just for the fact of, I think, like I said, both teams are probably going to play loose, both teams might play sloppy, and both teams might lack inexperience at times. That's just how I see it. I don't doubt that Kyle Shanahan and Pete Carroll are smart enough that they can play chess on the game, the whole game, but that's where I'm at. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to go under. Give me the Niners 20, Seahawks 17. San Fran wins, Seattle covers, under the 42. And if I keep talking like that, this video is going to be 40 minutes long. Let's see if we can do that. Your next game is going to be the Chargers in Jacksonville. Congratulations to both teams for making the playoffs. This is going to be great. The future of the league is bright in the AFC especially, with Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. Justin Herbert, as an Oregonian, I will say, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm rooting for him always, but it's like, I know Oregon quarterbacks don't have a successful history in the NFL. I know that's the case, so it's like, I'm hesitant. But Trevor Lawrence, you knew from his freshman year in Clemson, that he was going to be all that in a bag of potato chips or whatever you want to call it. Although admittedly he hit the back end of his years, you're kind of meh. But like, you knew Trevor Lawrence was going to be that deal. And of course, Jacksonville, that's kind of hard to turn around. And Urban Meyer made him look like one of the biggest busts in the world. You bring in Doug Peterson, it's a grind. It's not going to be easy, but he managed to get that team on a good enough win streak to start acting like they're a good team. And thanks to Tennessee crumbling heavily at the end of the year, Jacksonville was able to usurp them in that division. So with that being said, again, this is going to be these two teams' first time in the playoffs. Jacksonville, this is their first time in the playoffs since the 2017 season. Chargers, this is the first time they've been in the playoffs since the 2018 season. Meaning these two teams haven't been in the playoffs in a while, and chances are the players that were on those playoff teams aren't there anymore. I think you got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams may have been there. I think Gerald Everett was on the playoffs for a couple teams in previous years. But if I remember correctly, last time he was in a playoff game, he fumbled the ball with New Orleans against Tampa. So it's one of those crucial moments. And then Jacksonville, I don't think any of those guys have been in the playoffs in forever. Evan Ingram was on those Giants teams that haven't done anything since 2016. Zay Jones, I don't even remember where the fuck he was. And then, a lot of defensive players who are relatively young, because Jacksonville's a young team. So you got inexperience. You got quarterbacks now who've never been here before. But when I'm looking at this game, I'm thinking of two teams where inexperience is going to show here. I'm not saying that both quarterbacks are going to play bad. I'm just going to say there's going to be moments where it's like, yikes. And I say that for the sole purpose of, look at the Chargers game against the Raiders last year. Now, grant, that's not Justin Herbert's fault by any chance. which I think another thing is going to come into play. Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley is the one to keep an eye out for this game. Chargers blow this, he might kiss his job goodbye. So there's a Sean Payton looming around in the background. There is a Sean Payton, and you bet your ass he wants that Chargers job. He wants Herbert. I guarantee you he does. But I think inexperience is going to show. And then you look at Jacksonville against Tennessee last week. Trevor Lawrence, well, for the most part, he had a decent game. There were a couple of times where that team looked like they were trying to throw the game away because they didn't know what they were doing for certain. And then you had Trevor Lawrence also miss a wide open player in the end zone. I'm telling you, I think inexperience and, I don't know, youth is going to show for a lot of these teams. Don't get me wrong, I think both teams are going to make plays. I think you will get some points. I don't think this is going to be some 13-10 game. I think you will get points. With that being said, I think the first thing I want to highlight in this game is the total at 47.5. And I think inexperience is going to show heavily in this game that I think the under is one of the best bets in this wild card weekend. Under 47 in the Chargers and Jaguars. Because I think inexperience is going to show in this game. So you want to take the under. But that being said, if you're looking for teams you want to have faith in, or you believe teams that have somewhat more consistency here, I think you got to side with the Chargers. You think back to the Week 3 game too, where Jacksonville blew the Chargers out, but the Chargers were injured all hell. This is the first game. This is the game where Herbert came in after being diagnosed with all those broken ribs. Half the team was injured, yada yada. I think that might be in the back of mind of some people, like, hey, we're better than whatever this 38-10 bullshit was forever ago. So I think that's going to be there. And again, playoff atmosphere. I think that's going to play in hand. But I'm going to lean with the Chargers because I think they're a more complete team. They're more of a ready team. And I think this is just one of those ones where you, especially for Brandon Staley, I think Herbert's going to have a good game. Herbert will have some, like, 70% completion, 2-3 touchdowns, maybe a pick, or at least a turnover. I think Justin Herbert will have a good game. Trevor Lawrence, it'll see between him and then Etienne and whoever else is on the roster, we don't know. The Chargers defense has been up and down, but I think the Chargers are the safer bet, more or less. And at 2.5, they're laying, even as a road team. I think you got to take it. Jacksonville, I got to imagine, is going to be a nice warm day, or at the very least in the 50s and 60s. So at the very least, you're going to get plenty of offense. But I think, yeah, that inexperience is going to show. I'm trying to think. Bold prediction. Both teams combined for more than 800 yards of offense. I don't know if that's really a bold prediction per se, but I think both teams have offensive performances, but the scoreboard is lacking. That being said, we'll call that there. I like the Chargers 2.5 at a small price, but in playoff games, you don't really get many playoff games that end with less than 3. So, Chargers over the Jags in a under performance. Give me the Chargers 24, the Jaguars 20. Chargers win. They cover 2.5. It's under the 47. The next game going into the Sunday games, you have Buffalo and Miami. Miami, as of now, has already ruled out Tua Tagovailoa, and they're mentally preparing themselves to start Skylar Thompson. What does that mean? That means the Buffalo's going to kick the shit out of this team. It's in Buffalo. I don't see any reason why they don't. Remember the Patriots game last year? Granted, I don't want to say Mac Jones is as bad as Skylar Thompson. I know he's better. But prepare for that game. Buffalo's going to do to Miami what they did to the Patriots last year in the playoffs. I guarantee. Maybe not like a touchdown every drive. It's gonna be nasty. Especially with Skylar Thompson playing. I'm not taking chances in that. I'm not. I don't know what else there really is to talk about here. It's Buffalo. You got the DeMar Hamlin story now, so that's going to keep them motivated. And after dropping 35 on New England, for a game that essentially meant nothing to them, and more to New England, Buffalo just ran wild. Or at least their special teams ran wild. The Lord was with them that day. You can't put anything else on there. Now, I will say this. For 13.5, you don't want to lay that. Playing 13.5 in a playoff game is very risque. It's uncomforting. You don't like to. But considering Miami is starting or planning to start Skylar Thompson. And what does that mean? You're starting a team who put up 9 points against the Jets. I don't want to talk about the Saints. The Saints doesn't mean anything to me. 9 points. Offense, defense, blah, blah, blah. They're lucky Joe Flacco was throwing that game so that way Pittsburgh couldn't get in here. You're lucky Flacco was purposely throwing that game. But with that being said, there's not really much else you can talk about this game. Buffalo's going to win. They're going to cover 13.5. And the total being as low as 43.5, I understand that because you really don't know what to expect from Miami. But I'll tell you this. Like I said, what was it? Last year, with KC and Pittsburgh, that wild card game, where it was like 46. And I said the Chiefs are going to get that by themselves. Don't even worry about it. Same thing here. Take the over because Buffalo's probably going to get that 43.5 by themselves. Whatever Miami gets, congratulations, you're helping contribute. So yeah, there's not much else to talk about this game. Buffalo's going to win. They're going to cover 13.5. And that point total is going to go over 43.5. Give me the Bills 38, the Dolphins 10. Because why not? Some late garbage time touchdown here. I do think the Bills score more than 38, but I'm just going to say that's my score prediction anyway, because it's really awkward to predict 40 in a playoff game. Just saying. So yeah, Bills 38, Dolphins 10, Buffalo wins, they cover, and that's what total goes over. The next game, the New York Giants head to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. I made this out of the tweet earlier, but if you all remember, the Giants and the Seahawks were both teams that I predicted would finish in the bottom 5 this year. And now they're both in the playoffs. So, for me personally, that signifies one of those two teams should have the coach of the year. That is my... Either give it to Dayball or give it to Carroll. One of those two. I legitimately thought the Giants would go 0-17 this year. I legitimately did. And Seattle maybe 1-16, 2 or 15. So for the Giants to be here, I think Brian Daboll has earned the right to be coach of the year. You can argue Dan Campbell, you can argue Doug Peterson. I'm all for it. I would have thought Nick Sirianni, but the fact that he lost both those games with Gardner Minshew told me that maybe he needs Jalen Hurts more than Jalen Hurts needs him. So, and I don't really want to talk about Andy Reid, Zach Taylor, or Sean McDermott. They all have great quarterbacks who kind of just carry that team anyway, and great weapons. So I don't want to hear about them. You can argue Doug Peterson. I wouldn't be against it. Dan Campbell, had he made the playoffs? Maybe. But no. I think to me, it comes down to Pete Carroll or Brian Daboll. And at this point, Brian Daboll gets my vote. That being said, Minnesota, despite walking in with, 13-4 record, not a single damn person believes they're good. And our evidence for that is A, the minus 3 point differential they have in this game, or have in the season, despite winning 13 games. You're winning a bunch of close games, and the games you're losing, you're getting your asses kicked. So, tell me, what does that mean? What does that mean? It means you don't know where to put this team. You don't really have faith in them, and if it comes to good teams might give them a run for their money. Now, the Giants, I can tell you going into here, we're still not certain. Are they a good team? They won games. They're ahead of the rebuild schedule, and now they're in the playoffs with a 6th seed, but we don't really know where they're at. And you think back to the Giants-Vikings game that took place a couple weeks ago, you're thinking maybe there's something there. Minnesota, I think, won on a 61-yard field goal after the Giants tied it in the last second, or a couple minutes before that. But this game gets close again. It's who do you have more faith in? The answer is neither, to be honest. But here's what you're looking at. You're looking at a Kirk Cousins, who in previous years with playoff berths on the line, he blew it in the final game. You're looking at a Kirk Cousins who, while he was with DC, got a 10 or 11 point lead, and then got blown out by 35 against Green Bay. Granted, Green Bay was a really good team back then. And then a Minnesota team who went to New Orleans, and thanks to questionable Drew Brees being old and thus not as good as he used to be, Minnesota was able to win that game in overtime. You know, I gotta be honest, guys. I think I'm gonna take the Giants. I think I am. Just for the idea that, do I want to trust Minnesota? Not really. Not really. And this Giants team, I don't know. Brian Daboll's kind of making me a believer. Not to say that Kevin O'Connell can't be good, but I'm kind of liking what Brian Daboll's doing. I think I got to roll with the Giants in this game. I told myself I won't shit talk Kirk Cousins after he beat the Saints. That was my promise to Chris. But I just think they got lucky all year. And when you get lucky enough to win 13 games, I don't think it's not really luck. You are a good team. But against great teams, you got your asses kicked. And even the Giants gave you a run for your money the majority of that game. Lights are shining brighter now. It's not a 1 o'clock game. I think the Giants, honestly, are probably going to be a little more loosey-goosey too. They weren't expected to be here. I didn't expect them to be here. They got nothing to lose if they lose this game. I think Minnesota's under more pressure here. And with that, pressure makes pets. I think Minnesota's also a little injured. I don't know the injury report, but I've been hearing that there's some actual injuries. I saw Dalvin Cook went down. He did finish the game, I think, but he did go down in that Bears game. I like the Giants here. I really do. And that also being said, this is another one of those tricky totals. Because that total shot up to 48.5, which is a very big total for two teams who you don't know where you want to place them. Justin Jefferson is going to be really needed here. He's going to need to show out because who knows how the offense is going to operate itself. But for me, I think one of the keys for the Giants to winning is to play smart and keep it low scoring. Limit Minnesota to field goals. Because I do think they're going to get some points. But I do think the Giants pull it out. And 40.5 to me, I think is too many. I think the defense and Saquon are going to have to be big factors for them. And even Daniel Jones on the ground himself. They're going to have to be big factors in this game for them to do anything. So yeah, I'm going to roll with the Giants. Right now, Minnesota's a 3-point favorite, so for those who don't know, if you're a 3-point favorite at home, it means on a neutral field, you're basically the same team. And in this environment, where there's more pressure, the Giants don't really have that same pressure that Minnesota has. I think the Giants sneak it out. Whether that's a late fourth quarter touchdown, Brian Daboll going for 2 and the win, or Minnesota choking it somehow. I do think the Giants get it. So, you have that there. Give me the Giants 23, the Vikings 20. The Giants win. They cover 3 as an underdog, and it stays under the 48.5. I always forget this camera doesn't like recording more than 30 minutes, so let's hurry up and get these 2 games done. The 5th game on the NFL Wildcard Weekend features my Baltimore Ravens going to Cincinnati to do a rematch of the Week 18 game. So Baltimore, I don't know if they actually went back to Maryland or if they stayed in Cincy because, hey, we're going to be playing next week anyway. I don't know what their plan was. But they're going to do a rematch of Week 18 in a game where Anthony Brown started, and all things considered, Baltimore did end up electing to rest some starters in this game, because who knows. The big question now is Lamar going to play? Is Lamar going to play? Is Lamar going to do anything? And at this point, you can't tell me that he is going to play. Because I've been hearing, oh yeah, he'll be fine, he'll be fine, he'll be fine. And then he hasn't been fine. Still not practicing. Did not practice Wednesday, meaning you're probably not going to see him. So with that being said, it's either a bruised up shoulder Tyler Huntley or the Anthony Brown who you don't know. He's a rookie. He's an undrafted rookie. You don't know what you're going to get. So, and you got Cincy, who still a little butthurt over the whole coin flip debate had Baltimore won that game last week, but let's be real, Cincinnati, even if Baltimore did win that game, you wouldn't have deserved a coin flip because you are way better than this Baltimore team without Lamar Jackson. Without Lamar Jackson, you should beat this team 99 times out of 100. And now you're going to win a wild card game. So it's, you can go back and forth on what kind of game you think this is going to be. But even as a diehard Ravens fan like myself who wants to believe the defense is going to make some magic happen, I think since he has too good of an offense that you don't want to make that play. You don't. So with that, I'm going to take Cincinnati to win. I think this is a game you just can't trust the Ravens. You can't trust this team. If it's not Lamar Jackson, there's no point. You're not going to get any money betting on this team. You're best off just staying away. Stay away. Don't touch it. Now, granted, on the line, Cincinnati's laying 8.5. I think they were at like 8 or 9.5 when they played last week. Granted, since he did the same thing they've always done, they got hot to an early start, and then kind of cruise control the rest of the game. So, do I think the Ravens defense is going to step up now? Now, hey, this is playoffs. More people are going to be tense and tight and yada yada. We got to play war. I do. And with that, I'm going to trust in the Ravens defense to make this a close game. It's going to come down to, can Anthony Brown and or Tyler Huntley make plays? And honestly, I don't think they can. So that's why I'm taking Cincinnati to win, but I'm going to take the Ravens to cover 8.5. Now the total is at 40.5, which you hate touching 40s because all it takes is one extra score here, and you're at 42 or 43, and there's your over. But for the sole purpose of, in the Lamar Jackson era, granted we're more than likely expecting Lamar to not play this game, but in the Lamar Jackson era, all the games, the 4 playoff games he's played in, have combined for 40 or fewer points. You can go back to the 40 in the Chargers game. You can go back to the 40 with the Titans game, the 33, and then the 20 in Buffalo. All the games have been under 40, so for that reason alone, I'm going to go under 40 here as well. And we're just gonna lay it right there. So with that being said, in a low-scoring affair, give me the Bengals 21, the Ravens 16. The Bengals will win. Baltimore's gonna cover because that defense is gonna do everything in its damn power to do it, but the offense is just gonna be too inconsistent. Give me under the 40. And for the final game, your Monday nighter, you have the Tampa Bay Bucks, who you could say winners of a losing division. I don't really count the last week anyway, so it's whatever. Tampa is a 500 team. Just treat them like a 500 team. In a division where they went, what was it? I guess technically speaking, 4-2. So. And even in those games that they won, it was by what? 1 possession against New Orleans, 1 possession against Atlanta. So they didn't really do well in that division to begin with, and they just haven't been a good team, really. They've won in the end when they needed to, but realistically, they're not a good team. That being said, as of late, if feels like the offense started clicking a little bit. To the point where a Carolina team who had a somewhat respectable defense, granted they were missing Jason Horn that game, they found offense. Tampa found a way to score 30 in that game. And then last week they had, 10 or 17 before they decided to bench Brady. It's one of those where they kind of found a rhythm here. But then you got Dallas, a team that year in and year out you think is going to do something because they have the people to do it. I'm not going to say they have the coach to do it or the organization to do it, but they have the players for it. Dak Prescott, realistically, should be a top 10 to 15 quarterback. Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard should realistically be a top 5 to 10 running back tandem. CeeDee Lamb should realistically be a top 15 receiver. None of those have been the case the last couple of weeks. Dak Prescott has looked average at best for the majority of his return. But over the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's looked bad. Real bad. In the sense of, hey, these are easy games. Oh yeah, I'll drop 30, no problem. Let me just throw some first half picks though, because reasons. Or the Jags game, where that team was up, 27-10 at one point. They blew that game to Jacksonville. So it's one of those where it's like, where is Dallas here? Are they a team that's falling apart before our very eyes? Are they a good team? Is Dak Prescott going to be a good quarterback? At this point, we can't trust Dak. We can't. Or we can guarantee Dak's going to probably throw 2 or 3 touchdowns, but he's probably also going to go 2 or 3 interceptions. And against a Tampa team where, realistically, they're not going to make these mistakes. They might, because they've looked like a subpar team all year. But we're in playoff mode now, and playoff people tend to perform, or at the very least, they don't screw up. Tom Brady in the playoffs, I don't think you're going to get an easy turnover for him. You might be able to bait him once because he's 45 and can't really throw the ball 50 yards down the field. But I don't think he's going to give you any easy. You're going to have to really earn it. And if Dallas makes careless turnovers again, I think it's going to come back to bite him. I do. And because of that, and because of Dallas as a whole, and Mike McCarthy in general too, not that Todd Bowles has been a great coach. Granted, I don't think Todd Bowles is a bad coach. He's just kind of gotten the short end of the stick a lot of times. With that being said, I just think Dallas keeps self-imploding. I don't trust them. I don't. Now, do you want me to trust Tampa? Not really, but I just don't trust Dallas. I'm going to take the Bucks here. I think the Bucks eke out a win against Dallas. I think it just comes down to 1 or 2 plays that are going to be crucial. Tom Brady's going to make 1 play. Dak's going to make 1 mistake. I think that's what this game's going to come down to. Now, admittedly, this total at 45.5, this screams under. It does because of how the Bucks have played. The Bucks, especially if I'm taking the Bucks to win, I'm not expecting them to score a lot of points. That's kind of been the mantra all year. You don't expect them to score points. But I think the last 2 weeks or so, there has been an offensive group that's been found. And Dallas having a defense that hasn't really been consistent lately, or at the very least, kind of given the short end of the stick because of Dak Prescott and the offense being inconsistent or being stupid sometimes. I think you can get away with an over. I think this barely squeaks on the over. So with that, I think you just gotta take the over here. Tampa, as an underdog at home, I think you roll with it because I don't think you trust Dallas. I don't think you can. So you just gotta roll with it. So that being said, give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 26 Cowboys, 23. Tampa wins. They cover as an underdog. Give me over 45.5. I think one of those scores on that 26 comes from the defense. I really do. Or special teams. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, those are my picks. Like I said, Buffalo should blow out Miami. Not that I want to tell anyone to lay double digit spreads periods, but if you're going to bet, I'm not going to do parlays of the week for this because I don't care if there are parlays on 6 games or 4 next week. But I will say this. You want to lay the points at Buffalo. I guarantee you they'll blow them out. And you'll probably want to hit the over in that game too. Buffalo the points, take the over. I guarantee you those will probably be easy peasy. Or whatever Buffalo's total is, Buffalo's going to hit 30. I promise you. They will hit 30. At least. Maybe 40. That'll be it. Give you all the updated fantasy because I did promise that. I didn't win shit. League of Assholes, Sean takes the win in that one, being the champion 3 times out of the last 4, and our first back-to-back. I ended up finishing 6th. In the Discord's finest, we already updated with you, I think, but Zach won that one. I finished 4th. In the Coconut Mall League, granted, week 18 kind of is a pain in the ass, and I still am annoyed that Subleaf did that, because I didn't realize with week 18 Mark Andrews was going to sit out, so I didn't get a chance to change him out. But it is what it is. I ended up losing, so Subleaf is your champion in the Coconut Mall League, despite being the 4th seed. And then in the Anti & Co., I ended up finishing 3rd, also by scoring the most points, but because I'm not in the championship game, it don't matter. And Billy B ends up being your winner there. So we have Sean from the League of Assholes, Zach, a.k.a. Muser, Discord's finest, Subleaf in the Coconut Mall League, and then Billy B in the Anti & Co. League, with me finishing 6th, 4th, 2nd, and 3rd in those leagues respectively. And with that, that is going to be all for me, your favorite cat, that is blind and Canadian, even though I'm not actually Canadian. Thank you all for tuning in to what is probably going to be 40 plus minutes now of me blabbing about these playoff picks, but hey, that's what we do. That's what we do. I guess I should give you, fuck it, I don't care. Make sure you follow me on my Twitter, CanadianCatCP, Instagram, The Blind Canadian Cat. Follow me on my Discord, hop in, some say hi. We're going to try to get more people involved, and I'm in talks with people to do more to group activities for either these playoffs or for future seasons. We're in talks. If you want to be a part of that, hop into the Discord. And hop into Twitch. Again, I haven't been streaming much lately, but I'm hoping to pick it up more as the time goes on. But we'll just have to see then. And with that, that is all from me. Make sure you choose peace, accept love, and have the biggest of big trust. And pray for me this week, because we're probably going to get our asses kicked. But pray for me anyway. I really like these things. Thank you, Pro Football Hall of Fame. My name is Catherine. I love you all. Enjoy Wildcard Weekend. I will see you in the divisional round when we go from 14 to 8.